Long time ago, somewhere in Africa, there lived a girl called Idara. She had 4 brothers. She was indeed a beauty to behold. Idara had everything going on for her. She had one of the biggest saloons in the village. Everyone patronized her salon because she was very good at what she did. Because she was very beautiful, every lady wanted their hair done by Idara, because they wanted to look as beautiful as she was. Idara was loved by so many because they believe if you are not beautiful, if you make your hair with Idara, you will become beautiful. She indeed had a touch of gold. Idara was living alone with her parents, as all her brothers were successfully married. As much as Idara had everything going on well for her, she had one major problem that gave her sleepless nights. Idara had no stable relationship. All her friends were either married or about to get married, but Idara was very single. What gave her so much concern was that even friends she was prettier than and more successful than were all married. Idara was once in a relationship with a man called Effiong. Effiong was a successful businessman. Idara loved him so much and even prepared meals and took to him on Sundays when she was not working. They were always seen together, and Idara felt that someday that they were going to get married. The relationship was 3 years old already, and even Idara's parents were already getting anxious to know what next. Effiong was always traveling to do business, and Idara never suspected anything. One day, Idara had a job offer to travel to the next village to make the hair of a bride-to-be. Idara was very excited because it was one of her hobbies, making brides look special on their big day. Idara got to the village and met with the bride-to-be, Eno. As she was making Eno's hair, she kept telling Idara how lucky she was to have met her husband-to-be and that they dated for only 8 months before he decided to settle down with her. Idara congratulated her and told her that she was indeed very lucky, that she was in a 3-year relationship already and no marriage plans, but her boyfriend is a very wonderful person, and she thinks it's because of the fact that he travels around for business. That could be one of the reasons he had not settled down with her. And I pray that she gets married soon too, because she was too beautiful to be single, and they both laughed about it. Suddenly there was a knock on the door, and I said that must be my husband. As the door opened, lo and behold, it was Effiong. Idara was shocked, and she asked Eno, "Are you sure this is your husband?" And she responded in the affirmative. Immediately, Idara burst into tears and ran away. Idara locked herself inside the room for 3 days. So Effiong had been deceiving her all this while, she thought. What pained her the most is that they dated for 3 years, whereas he is getting married to someone he only dated for 8 months. So obviously she was not good enough for him. Her friends were all around to sympathize with her and asked her to move on. 4 months after, Idara moved on. One day, during a friend's party, one of her friends, Uwem, introduced her to a man called Basi. It was indeed love at first sight. Basi was a gentleman who was good with words. All through the evening, he said sweet words to Idara and swept her off her feet. Idara enjoyed every moment spent with him. Immediately, they started a relationship. Oh, Basi was a cheerful giver, and he spoiled Idara with gifts. Idara has never felt that loved and pampered before, and very soon, she forgot everything about Effiong. Deep down inside her, she said that Basi was God's way of compensating her for what she went through in the hands of Effiong. Basi always insisted that Idara must notify him whenever she was visiting, so that he would be able to give her the best of time and attention. Idara's friends felt she was so lucky to have a man as caring and loving as Basi. One day, Idara prepared Basi's favorite meal and decided to pay him a surprise visit. She didn't tell Bassey she was coming. Idara went to the market and took her time to prepare a sumptuous meal of afang soup with lots of periwinkle in it, which was Bassey's favorite, and decided to take it to him. When she got to the house, the door was slightly open. She heard voices from the room and she thought it was the radio. As she opened the door, she met her friend Owen lying in the bed in the hands of Bassey. Idara screamed out of shock, and that was the last thing she could remember. The next day, she woke up in a hospital and asked where she was. She was told that she was rushed to the hospital the previous day. All of a sudden, everything that happened started playing back. Idara cried like a baby. The heartbreak affected everything. Idara was not going to work regularly and her health deteriorated. She kept to herself most of the time. Some of the villagers felt she was just unfortunate, while others were of the opinion that she was jinxed and that what was happening to her was more spiritual than physical. Idara was always going regularly to the hospital for checkup. Dr. Akpan was very nice to her. Aside giving her medical attention, he also counseled her on how to put the past behind her fast. The doctor was her only true friend, as he genuinely liked her and wanted the best for her. Their friendship got deeper, but Idara said psychologically and mentally she wasn't ready for a relationship. Dr. Akpan told her he was ready to wait for her. Idara was still very skeptical about the whole thing, and she wanted to be sure Dr. Akpan wasn't doing this out of pity. They went out one day and Idara asked him why he was still single. He replied that he wasn't interested in relationships then, as he was concentrating all his efforts in becoming a doctor, and that now that he's a doctor, that he's ready to settle down. To prove how serious he was to Idara, he took his people to see her people. Idara's parents were very happy to receive the doctor and his people. The marriage list was given to them and they started preparing for the wedding. Idara's life started having a meaning all of a sudden. Idara only informed a few of her friends she could trust, and they all waited for the big day. A night before the wedding, her parents invited her for a talk. They advised her how to live and treat her husband, and they prayed for her. Idara couldn't sleep out of excitement. So finally, I will become a married woman. The thoughts were just overwhelming. The day of the marriage was filled with activities. Idara was ready to look her best. Her father's compound was full already with guests, and she couldn't wait to step out majestically. She was informed that her husband and his people were on their way already. The ceremony was to start by 9 a.m. At 10 a.m., they were not around. 11 a.m., anxiety has already stepped in. Idara became very worried. At about 12 noon, two men just ran into the compound and informed them that her husband and his family were involved in an accident on their way. And unfortunately, 3 people died.